Hi, everybody. Welcome. Let's see. Be sure to tell us where you're from in the chat. See, I see Alice and Debbie. Yeah, make sure you check in and say hi, and make sure that when you do that, that you do panelists and attendees so that everybody can see what you're saying. It's good to have you all here today. Oh, Irene's from New Jersey, Long Island. Hi, Leanie. Joe from Wales. All right. That would be exciting to be in Wales. Claudia. Well, welcome. What is this, day 4? I think it's day 4 now of our Empowering Women. And we have guests today, additional guests. And so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I'm Tamara. I'm a coach on Soberful Life, and today I have Mimi and Tiffany with me, and I'll introduce them in a minute. I just want to check to see if there are any questions or comments about yesterday's workshop on shame and guilt. Oh, we got Sunny from France. So if you have a question from yesterday, you can put it in the chat and we will try to answer that for you. And I also want to announce yesterday's prize winner. So yesterday's homework question, we actually forgot to say it at the end. So I'll be sure to do that today. But we posted it on Facebook, and the winner was Kimberly Blackett of the United States. So I don't know if Kimberly is here or not. But Louise will follow up with her, and she has won a 3-month subscription to our Sober for Life platform. So yay, Kimberly, right? So exciting. Oh, Alice, she's also in Oregon. We got another, yeah, Alice is in Oregon. Yeah. So that was yesterday's winner, and it's okay if Kimberly is not here today. We'll get in touch with her and get her set up for our subscription program. Let's see. So we'll have we're going to have a homework question, I promise, at the end, the very end. So if you can stay till the very end, we'll have a homework question, and all you have to do is answer it in Facebook. And we'll also post the question in Facebook to be the winner of some very exciting and amazing Soberful Life swag. So like a mug and a t-shirt. And so we got a bunch of swag for you. So be sure to stay tuned for that. So the content and the coaching that we're providing here today and have been for the last few days and 4 more days to come comes from licensed and certified professionals. As professionals, we provide these services just like other professionals um, that are provided at a treatment center. Most treatment centers to go for 30 days is like $20,000 to $30,000. But Veronica created this program for women because most women cannot leave their families or their loved ones or their responsibilities for 30 days, mostly like their children, maybe even pets, to go to treatment for 30 days. And so Veronica created this program, a 5-month program online that provides the same content material that you would get at a 30-day treatment program. And I've worked at a couple of treatment programs, and the ratio of women to men at a treatment is 10 to 1, just to kind of give you an idea of how out of balance it is. And that's why this program is really, really powerful, because we know that we're going to be able to help a lot of women that aren't getting, the support that they need. So I want to go ahead and introduce Mimi. So Mimi is a nurse practitioner and a Soberful coach. Like I said, we're all professionals, all licensed and certified in our fields. And Mimi, would you go ahead and share a little bit about yourself with the members?
Sure.
And then, yeah.
Yeah. So I've been a nurse practitioner for 32 years, a long time. I've done family practice, or what is commonly known as general medicine. I did spend 6 years in a subspecialty of women's pelvic health and women's sexual health. So I spent a lot of my time counseling women who are having issues with menopause, perimenopause, PMS, all those kinds of things, vaginal disorders, urinary disorders. So I'm passionate about helping women understand how their bodies work. I think talk about being empowering. I tell my patients, knowledge is power. And we're woefully ignorant, I think, about how our bodies work. And there's lots of reasons why that might be. But I like to spend a lot of time with my patients just talking about, what their normal hormones are supposed to be doing, why it seems out of whack at this time. So I'm very passionate about that. I'm also in recovery. I've been in the recovery space for 16 years. I've been sustainably sober for past 8 years. And I am currently a recovery coach as well. I've been certified through the International Coaching Federation and She Recovers. I also have a coach designate through She Recovers. So I help women, mostly women, get and stay sober. So I hope what I bring to the table is not only an understanding of what it is to get sober, but how their hormones might be interplaying with why it can be difficult. So that's what I do.
Well, you do a lot, and we're glad that you are here. Especially, I mean, I just think about, I got sober before menopause, but I can only imagine, because menopause in itself was enough for me to handle. I couldn't imagine dealing with both issues at the same time. And so I really look forward to some of the information that you're going to share with me and Tiffany and, the women that came on Soberful today. So what are we going to learn about, Mimi?
Well, today, how about if we, do you mind if I get my slides opened up?
Nope, go for it.
Okay. Can you still see me?
I can see you.
Okay, because I can't see me anymore, but I can see my slides. So.
Oh, we can't see your slides.
Uh-oh, that's a problem. Okay, hang on a second.
Okay.
Let
Just
me,
some technical difficulties, everyone. No worries.
how's that? Better?
That's it. That's
Okay.
it.
Okay, now I have to move this so we're out of the way. Okay, so just as I've mentioned, for women to navigate PMS, perimenopause, and menopause, they need facts, because empowerment requires accurate information, but they also need feminism. And by that, I mean being in touch with our bodies. I think when we're drinking, one of the things that I think I felt, and I think a lot of women feel, is you've just totally lose touch with what your body is doing. You're just not paying attention anymore. And you often don't trust your intuition. So sometimes you may have this hint that something's not right, and you keep negating it because you just don't trust it. So, and I know Tiffany feels strongly about listening to your body too, and I know she'll talk about that. So your intuition will not lead you astray, is what I tell my patients. So that is super important. My mission, as I said, is to teach women about their bodies using accurate scientific based data. I consider myself a scientist, to remove the shame of talking openly about, in quotes, down there. Talking about our vagina should be as comfortable as talking about our runny noses. And I just think, that we could go on about why that is. It's historical, it's our patriarchal society. And I have lots of women in my office, not really comfortable talking openly about things that are going on about their vaginas or their vulvas. certain their periods. So I want to also debunk what I call the snake oil ads that open up discussion and open up about the commoditization of your health. And here's what I mean by that. You know, no matter what you Google on the internet, you are going to get ads, someone trying to sell you something. And so much of it just is not, it's not safe, it's not accurate. So I just want everyone to be quite aware of where they're getting their information. You know, medicine has really gotten to be quite a commodity. It's interesting. I just, as an example, I looked up menstrual cramps a couple days ago just to see what would happen. And right away, I get these ads. One of them is for a device called Ovira, Ovira. And when I looked into it further and investigated, it really is basically what's called a TENS unit. And a TENS unit, TENS, is something you can buy on Amazon for $28. This is $140, what they were advertising for. So being informed about what you're doing, being really careful, listen to your healthcare provider, get someone you trust. And if someone is not willing to sit down with you and answer your questions, I think that's time to get another provider. Someone should be really willing to help you understand what's going on. So also talk openly about sexual function. I know my generation, that's not something that we are at all comfortable talking about. And since I was treating women for sexual dysfunction, a lot of it was trying to help them get over their shame. There's a lot of shame around sexual function. And I think that's just an important thing to work through, to try and get over if it is. Certainly if there's any history of abuse or any kind of sexual issues, you know, as you're in your drinking days, you know, I think that's something that really needs to be openly discussed with professionals. And my other mission is to help women attain sustainable sobriety. I always have to do a disclaimer. This is education only. It is not meant to be medical advice. So I want you always to talk to your healthcare provider. So what are we going to learn? Well, we're going to talk about our 3 sex hormones. How do they affect our mood? How does alcohol affect these hormones? Why do these hormones, excuse me, what do these hormones do during a normal menstrual cycle? What causes PMS? Hopefully that'll be stuff that will be new to you. And I'll kind of do it in a way that I do with my patients. So I'm kind of pulling together the things that I often do with my patients. So you're going to be my patient in my office. So we'll pretend that.
Excellent. I'm all ready. Here I am.
You're ready? Okay.
Yeah. I'm ready to fire my doctor. So
in females, the ovaries and adrenal glands are the main producers of sex hormones. Female sex hormones are estrogen, progesterone, and small quantities of testosterone. We have about a little bit less than 1/10 of the amount as males do in terms of our testosterone level. Okay, I kind of lost my way here. Sorry. It all starts in the pituitary gland. Your pituitary gland is the size of a pea. And I think that just tells you the miracle of what our body is about. So there are chemical messengers that travel through your bloodstream to different cells, and these messengers tell your ovaries and your adrenal glands what to do. One of the messengers is called FSH, that's follicular stimulating hormone. In men, it produces sperm, and it stimulates the ovaries to produce estrogen in the female. There's also what's called LH, luteinizing hormone, stimulates ovulation in women, and testosterone production in men. So these are messengers that function both in male and female. And they are often referred to, if you ever go in and you're in your 40s, you talk to your provider about the fact that your periods are either you're not getting periods or they're becoming scant, they might do what's called an FSH. And it sometimes tells you and the provider where you are on your menopausal journey.
Oh, so real quick, sorry to jump in on you. I
Go
mean,
ahead.
so so in our workbook that our panelists, our attendees have, the 3 sex hormones again are estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. Those are
Great.
the 3. So that's the answer in your workbook, just to kind of point that out in case, I mean, we went by it pretty quick, so I just want to make
Yeah.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks, Mimi.
Yeah. Yeah. So what does estrogen do? Estrogen acts everywhere in the body, including the parts of the brain that control emotion. So our amygdala is our sometimes referred to as our pleasure center, or it can be our mood center. And we have estrogen receptors on all the cells in that part of our brain and actually throughout the brain. So what we think happens is some of estrogen's effects include increasing serotonin and the number of serotonin receptors in the brain. It modifies the production and the effects of endorphins, and it's a feel-good kind of feeling. It definitely enhances libido and arousal. So women who are struggling with perimenopause, their estrogen levels are starting to go down. They notice they don't get as wet as they normally would during times of sex. And it can become a problem. You can actually have quite a bit of discomfort with sexual intercourse. So it's good to know kind of what's going on. I did do a webinar on hormone replacement therapy in the Soberful live program. So I did talk a lot about these kinds of things that are happening to women. I also did a webinar on sexual function, and we looked at libido and arousal. So we talked in much bigger detail about how estrogen affects these areas. What does progesterone do, our other sex hormone? Plays an important role in brain function, is often called the feel-good hormone because of its mood enhancing and antidepressant effects. Optimum levels of progesterone promote feeling of calm and well-being, while low levels will cause anxiety, irritability, and anger. And one of the things with PMS is the fact that our progesterone, about 3/4 of our way into our cycle, starts to go down. And we think that PMS can be related, or at least partially related, to the fact that your progesterone, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that later, when that can occur. Testosterone is obviously the male sex hormone, or the one we know of. However, combined with estrogen, the female sex hormone of testosterone helps with the growth and maintenance and repair of women's reproductive tissues and bone mass. It also plays a very important role in libido and arousal. And again, when I did my webinar on sexual function, we talked a little bit about how testosterone is becoming popular in treatment of libido issues, topical testosterone. So if you want more information, you can go to that webinar. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about alcohol and how it affects our hormones. So what science tells us is that alcohol ingestion at the wrong time, even in amounts insufficient to cause permanent tissue damage, that means really, even just a little bit of alcohol use, which I don't think we're in that category, it can disrupt the delicate balance of critical to maintaining our human female reproductive hormone cycles. It can result in infertility. It increases estradiol, causing heavy irregular menses, and it also increases our risk of breast cancer. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that risk. I think it's interesting how we don't have warning labels on alcohol. I think we should. It's actually much more dangerous for you than even smoking cigarettes in terms of your cancer risk.
Wow, that's really, I didn't realize that.
Yes, yes. In fact, I have something. Here it goes.
Okay.
Compared to women who don't drink at all, women who have 3 alcoholic drinks per week, and I don't know about you, but I was never in that category when I was drinking alcohol, have a 15% higher risk of breast cancer. Experts estimate that the risk of breast cancer goes up another 10% for each additional drink a woman will have each day. So your risks can be 50, 60, 70%, depending on how much alcohol you drink. I had breast cancer 12 years ago, and there's no question in my mind that was related to my alcohol use. No question. So be aware of that. And certainly think about getting mammograms, as you should, if you are have been in the past or currently are actively drinking. Do your breast exams, super important, every month. So I want to talk about warning labels and how crazy it is that we don't have warning labels. First of all, less than half Americans know that alcohol is a carcinogen. So I know nowhere where it says anywhere that alcohol causes cancer. The alcohol industry certainly wants to keep it that way. There's a new law proposed that alcohol has warning labels that state, according to the certain, now this is in the US, according to the Surgeon General, consumption of alcohol beverages can cause cancer, including breast and colon cancers. And, you know, I checked Canada law. They also don't have warning labels. Alcohol.
That's a
Go
pretty
ahead.
big deal. That's a pretty big deal that they don't have warning labels and that is a carcinogen. That's a pretty big deal.
It is a pretty big deal. And you can bet the alcohol lobby is going to go out and really campaign hard to let that not happen.
Right. Right.
So right now, only two countries, South Korea and Ireland. Anyone here from Ireland? Yay! Good for you. Have laws on the books requiring cancer warnings on booze. So we're going to kind of turn around and change the topic a little bit. And I'm a visual learner. So this is what I show my patients when I want them to remember something. So this is obviously a camel. And I'm going to talk about what is our normal cycle. What happens when, let's give us a 28-day cycle. So here's our period. The head of the camel is our period. This first bump is ovulation and your estrogen. This is your estrogen going up. The next bump is your progesterone going up. And this is your period back in the back end of the camel. So think 2 humps, estrogen at ovulation. Progesterone goes up after ovulation, and then it's when it goes down that we get our period. So what I want you to know, and let's go to the next slide for that. So here it is, estrogen goes up, here's ovulation, here's progesterone goes up and then goes down, and right here is your period. So this shows our uterine lining. In other words, the blood that comes out, that's the lining of the uterus. Obviously, it helps to get ready for implantation for the egg. It's all about survival. This part is your period. So as your estrogen goes up, your lining starts to develop, but then it gets thicker and thicker and thicker. And estrogen causes these building blocks. So think of estrogen that causes the lining to form, the bloody lining that ends up being your period. Those are building blocks. Think of progesterone as the links in between that keep the bloody lining there. So it's like a network, a fence. Think of it as little strands that go through the lining that cause the lining to stay put. It gives it structure. So when our progesterone goes down, the lining, those structures disintegrate. And that's when we get it. And that's why we slough off the lining. That's what causes our period. So it's really important, I think, that we understand how that works. That estrogen makes the lining, progesterone keeps the lining in and keeps it strong. And it's the drop in progesterone that causes your period, which is why sometimes when women have menstrual issues, we're giving them progesterone sometimes for 3 months to get them to slough that lining, because we think sometimes that lining doesn't slough very well, and then it can build up. So I'm kind of changing course again. We just talk a little bit about PMS. So here are the kinds of symptoms women can have: breast tenderness, abdominal pain, back and joints, muscle, pelvis. So women can be in pretty big, painful misery. You can have constipation or diarrhea. I certainly have had women have a lot of problems with diarrhea right before their period. Appetite changes, excessive hunger, fatigue, loss of appetite. You can have anxiety, and that's probably one of the biggest problems for women, and irritability. They'll say they pick fights with their spouse or their partner, all those kinds of things. And I know I remember my husband during those periods of time used to say, would you just put a calendar up on the wall and mark off where I might want to not be around? Because once we figured out what was going on, he's like, if I only knew, I would know,
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
would be different if I only knew. So you can get acne, depression, headaches, insomnia, etc. So causes, and that's interesting to me, is that it's really unknown. And not to get off on a tangent here, but I swear to God, if males had PMS, we would know what causes PMS. There would be no question that we would know. But there's not a lot of studies because it's a male dominated, it's changing, but it's a male dominated area in medical research. So I think they tend to be more enthused about erectile dysfunction than they are about PMS. So we do know that it's related to your hormonal fluctuations. But what we think is related to it is serotonin. It's a lot of people know what this is because they're on SSRIs, which are serotonin enhancers. But it seems to play a crucial role. So we think PMS symptoms are related to serotonin insufficiency. And that's why there's some premenstrual depression, as well as fatigue, food cravings, and sleep problems. So we think it's a serotonin thing. And one last slide. I just thought it was the funniest thing, a bad egg. So why does it change? In other words, why women in their 40s, sometimes earlier, sometimes it doesn't happen until their 50s, but why all of a sudden do menstrual periods get irregular? They often will get heavier. They will become in shorter duration. They'll come more often. Sometimes they come later. And it's really difficult, I think, for women if they don't know what's happening. And I think there's nothing worse than your periods being all over the place, not sure where they are, and you're not sure if you're PMSing or if you're just angry about something. And it's just uncertainty is really hard. I think we all get used to our cycles being very regular, and we know when PMS is going to start, and then all of a sudden it gets all whacked out, and then we don't even know what's going on. And in the middle of that, we're trying to get sober. It can be pretty difficult. So why does it change? Well, our eggs get older. I hate to say that. Aging eggs, estrogen, progesterone hormones are released in an irregular or diminished capacity, which causes these irregularities, heavy periods, mood swings. So things can get worse as we age. Now, some women for sure will sail through menopause and not have a hot flash, not have an issue. That's about 10% of the population. About 90% of the women are going to have some issues, some worse than others. And some women can come in my office and be pretty darn miserable. So that's my synopsis on how our bodies work. I know when we go to Empowering Women, we'll go in a lot more detail of what we can do to treat some of these things, how we can help PMS, how we can work with perimenopause, all those kinds of things. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Mimi. I learned a lot just in that little bit of time, and have definitely struggled with going through menopause. I feel very fortunate that I was already sober and didn't have to deal with both of those things at the same time, and it was really challenging to deal with. And so thank you so much. And
yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, it's great. So we also have with us, besides, Mimi's wonderful presentation about hormones and how they impact us and can impact us during our recovery, and also the effects of alcohol on us. We have Tiffany here with us today too, who is a registered nurse and one of our Soberful coaches. And she is going to talk to you about the effects of food. So Mimi, can you switch your screen or
I'm trying.
close it up? Uh,
Oh, here we
ye
go. Okay,
okay.
I think I got it. There we go. Oops.
I love that egg with the Band-Aids all
I
over and the
know.
scowly face, and,
Is it still
uh,
up?
it's still up. Mhm.
Oh, gosh. Here we go. Let's try
Should be at the
this.
top of you. Oh, there you go. Yeah,
There we go.
perfect. You got it. Thank you so
Mhm,
much, Mimi.
mhm.
And we got a lot of messages coming through here. So yeah, people sharing about their experiences with menopause and drinking. And so okay. And so Tiffany, do you want to share with the members a little bit about yourself and talk about the relationship with food and alcohol and recovery?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. Some of you have seen me coaching in the Soberful Life group. I do a monthly webinar about food and our bodies and how, the relationship with food and recovery. But I'll kind of dive in a little bit today and give you a little bit of information that hopefully will help support you in your recovery journey. So I'm Tiffany North, and as a nurse, an intuitive eating coach, and the creator of the food attachment model, I've helped hundreds of women to who have really struggled lifelong with food and struggled with that binge restrict shame cycle to finally heal their relationship with food in their body and find freedom from that struggle. And personally, I struggled with that as well. My food challenges actually predated my body image issues, predated my alcohol use problems and substance use problems. And then, of course, when I got sober, they kind of came back full force. And so fortunately, I was able to find, realize that I really needed to get support and find the support that was helpful to me, but I had to kind of like piecemeal it together, right? And so I was able to heal my relationship with food and my body, and today I have a really secure base and a secure functioning in my relationship with my body and a lot of peace and joy around it. So I want all of you to have that as well. Um, all right, and so I have some slides as well. I tried to keep it a little light. I tend to be a talker, and I do want to answer questions. So, feel free to, put them in the chat, and I will do my best to get to them. Okay. Oh, I think you have to
Oh,
unmute.
let me, you know what? I gotta do something. So give me a minute
Okay.
here.
Yeah.
I gotta help you be a co-host.
All right.
Why is that not?
Empowerment. Thank
I
you.
know. There it is. Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to see in the chat if people have seen some of the videos, and so like, who all has seen some of the videos, and if you found them helpful in the Soberful Life or attended live, that would be cool. Oh yeah, and somebody's saying thank you, Mimi. Yeah, thank you for that. It's interesting, even being a nurse and you know, being somebody who is focused on it, kind of knowing my body better is still an area that I am learning as well. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And I was even wondering if maybe the participants could share with the group, based on what Mimi was talking about. When do you notice, like during your cycle, that you are most irritable, right? And anxious. And maybe you want to share about that at one point in time. Do you notice yourself, and how does that affect your sobriety? Because a lot of times with irritability and anxiousness, we end up drinking over those feelings and not having appropriate management skills. So that's just a question I thought about with Mimi's presentation. So,
Yeah, I love that question.
mhm.
All right. And so diving in, I really love to hear or have you to start thinking about how much mental and emotional energy do you spend thinking about food in your body, trying to control or manage food in your body, all of those shoulds that we have kind of all day long. And what I find is that a lot of people are spending, a ton of time thinking about it, and it's very present for them all the time. And so coming through, working with me, it's interesting. I had some clients, there's this question about preoccupation, and they said probably like 80% of the time it's like kind of front of mind for them, and they were able to drop down to 20% in working with me. So that freedom, right, that we get from really building this secure base with food in our body allows us to do so much more in the world and really do the things that we're passionate about, live our, the lives that we really want to live. So yeah, so that's why I do this work, is I really want to empower other women in particular to have the life that they want and do the things that they want to be doing rather than, spending so much energy on this. All right. So we want to talk about some of the reasons that we struggle more as people in recovery. And I didn't mention before, but I've been sober for on June 13th. It'll be 23 years actually. So I've been in recovery for a really long time, and the food struggles were something that took me a lot longer to work through. All right. So a lot of times for people in recovery, there's this disconnection from our bodies. And so we have experienced traumas, whether that's big T, little t, adverse childhood experiences. There's a lot of unhealed wounds that are happening, and that creates this, need to kind of stay distance from that. And this reason that it feels hard to dig in and be connected to our body. Our alcohol use actually encourages that disconnection as well, right? Kind of a numbing effect. And so it becomes a habit to just be really disconnected from our body. And unfortunately, with body attunement, that really takes practice. Like it's like a muscle, right? We have to kind of get muscle memory for that. And so if we're out of practice, or if we haven't really been connected, or if we have these reasons why it feels hard or scary or painful to be connected to our body, then it's going to be really challenging to really use your intuition, right? And um, care for your body in a way that's attuned. So we're starting out with this kind of disconnection typically. And a lot of times we're coming from homes or upbringings where connection wasn't modeled, right? And being attuned to your body wasn't modeled.
Oh, absolutely, Tiffany. I can think to myself, like, I didn't realize how much time I spent living in my head and ignoring from the neck down,
Yeah.
right? And of course, because I wasn't first generation with trauma, there was, I watched that in my mother too, just this
Yeah.
complete disconnection. And it was something that I did not realize, right? Because the alcohol made me not think. It anesthetized me, right? I didn't have to think. And I didn't realize that I was spending all this time up here versus paying attention, like being present fully. So,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
powerful, so powerful.
Yeah, yeah. And so a lot of times when we're talking about things like intuitive eating or, other types of like, caring for your body, that requires that connection first. And so we're missing part of the conversation a lot of times when we're not talking about like building that attunement in the first place so that we then can eat intuitively, right?
Right.
So that's why this is coming first. So we also tend to have difficulty with nervous system and emotional regulation. And so alcohol actually is a central nervous system suppressant, and so kind of like is pushing down and depressing everything, right, or suppressing everything. And then when you take it away, it's like this, you just become like a bundle of raw nerves, right? And so we're already a lot of times starting from a place of difficulty with nervous system regulation, which a lot of times is what encourages alcohol use or substance use. But on top of that, the alcohol itself creates this increased kind of agitation. And so when we take that away, right, we're needing, so we, on top of not having our normal way of managing our nervous system and our emotions, we already were starting from a place of kind of difficulty with managing them. Right. And so this is a place, I think later in this, I'll be talking about autoregulation. And so this is a way that we can kind of start to let go some of the shame and judgment and just recognize like it makes a lot of sense in terms of our physiology and our biology. It makes a lot of sense that we would want to utilize food in a way that's, trying to soothe our nervous system or treat our, use it to treat our emotions. It's not, there's nothing to feel bad or wrong about. It's just a biological response, but that there is something we can do about it. Yeah. A lot of times we have unmet needs. And I just want to apologize. I can't really see the chat very well when I'm in this. So I'll be going into the chat at different points, but right now I can't really see the question. So would you let me know if
Yeah,
there's
there was one by Alice who asked, what would you say intuitive eating is eating on the automatic subconscious? Or do you think about food and body image all the time and not realize it? So it's an
Oh, I
automatic.
love this question. Yeah. We're going to go in a little bit more to body attunement and how to develop that. But I think of it as a lot of times when you hear people talk about intuitive eating, they'll say like, we were born intuitive eaters. And sure, you know, a lot of times infants have like hunger and fullness signals, right? That are pretty, like they'll cry when they're hungry and they'll turn their head when they're full. But in order to truly become intuitive eaters, that has to be modeled for us. And so it's kind of like learning to drive a car. Like most people have what they need to be able to learn how to drive a car. But if you were never taught, if you never experienced it, you're not going to have those skills, right? So we have to either be taught by caregivers or self-taught as adults to develop that attunement and awareness. And so initially it's going to actually be pretty intense. There's going to be a pretty steep learning curve, and we're going to have to think about it a lot. But similar to driving, over time, as you develop those skills, you'll be able to really do them in a way that doesn't feel effortful anymore, unless you're driving through fog or on ice, and then you have to pay more attention, right? And so yeah, if you're navigating a different life circumstance, you might have to pay more attention to how are you feeding yourself, or if you've got a lot of stress, it might be harder to tune into your body, right? But as you develop those skills, it does kind of become you do develop kind of a muscle memory for it. And so yeah, so that's my answer.
Okay, great.
Hopefully, Alice, yeah, let me know if that actually answered your question, Alice. All right. So yeah, so a lot of times we have unmet needs, and this is a lot of times because we don't feel like we deserve to be a priority. Everybody and everything else comes first, right? We have all these other things that need attending to, and a lot of times that lack of feeling like we deserve to be the priority comes from, and I say the priority because, and I mean that actually, I am absolutely caring for myself is the priority for me in my life today. And I say that without guilt. But it took me many, many, many years as a people pleaser and an overachiever, an overworker to come to a place where I felt okay about that. But a lot of times it's because we have a lot of shame. And so, you know, we need to work on revaluing ourselves and really know that we are inherently valuable, and that we're the only ones who can really make ourselves the priority, right? And so attending to our needs. But when we have these unmet needs, it creates this feeling of discomfort. And so we have even more kind of emotional regulation problems because, you know, we're basically pushing aside our needs all the time, and that doesn't feel good. All right. And so then we have a lot of judgments and shoulds guiding our food choices. And that comes from diet culture and from our doctors and from all kinds of, places in the world. But we're kind of exposed to more shoulds than the average person, because diet culture is even, I would say, even more prevalent in recovery. So you hear a lot of like, I'm addicted to sugar and sugar is terrible. And, you know, you should do this and you shouldn't do that. And if we're having all this shame already, and then we're having like some body image issues on top of it, so it gets piled on even more. So we're exposed to it out in the world, and then we're often exposed to it in the recovery space. Unfortunately, judgments and shoulds aren't a good way to guide your food choices. Again, we want to develop that body attunement. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I've never been able to create positive change based on like judging, shaming, guilting myself, you know?
Right. It does
Like I've
not
had
work.
like really terrible conversations with myself, and that never created any positive change. It wasn't until I started really loving myself and really, doing things for myself that created this feeling of wellness that I started like really taking on some traction. So,
Yeah.
Alice did ask, what is being othered?
Othered. Okay, great. Yeah. So being othered and this comes from a book called Radical Belonging by Lindo Bacon. I highly recommend it.
It was actually one of the books that we gave away yesterday as a book that you recommended.
I
So,
love this book so much.
what's
I'm
it
so
called?
glad.
Radical what?
Radical Belonging by Lindo
Radical
Bacon.
belonging.
Yeah. So being othered, being not feeling connected in your community, basically it's a form of marginalization, right? And oppression. And being othered really creates more shame when you're stigmatized. And unfortunately, that shame actually increases the stress on your body. Being disconnected is actually worse for you than smoking. And so, yeah. So in addition to having, all the kind of regular body image and all that stuff that regular, average women have, we also have the shame and stigmatization of struggling with alcohol. And so even more, we're othered even more, which then creates that like need to soothe, right? So we have a lot of reasons why it can be really challenging to address food and body image, even more so than the average woman. And most of the people I know have problems with it, so it's really prevalent. All right. And so I'm kind of aware of the time. I want to go quickly, but I want to give you a moment to really think about what is your relationship with food like? What are your biggest struggles with food? What patterns or behaviors do you worry about or do you wish that you could change? And so, yeah, if you have some behaviors or some patterns that you're concerned about, feel free to drop them in the chat or, just make a note to yourself. I'm going to try to check out the chat for a moment here. I don't know why it won't let me see it. Hmm. I think I have to stop the share. But yeah, what are your biggest struggles?
Sorry, I was going to tell you, Tiffany, if you pull up the chat, you want to make sure that you're looking under participants and panelists, not just panelists.
I think I'm seeing it now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
great.
great, great, great.
Um,
And so
sugar craving.
I'm gonna let Tiffany answer questions in the chat while we talk about the program that Mimi, Tiffany, Veronica, Yolanda, and I are coaching in the Empowered Soberful Women program. And tomorrow you're going to meet Yolanda. Veronica and Yolanda will be here and talking about esteem issues. And you're going to find out that our 5-month program that we are offering it encompasses so many things. It's not just about not drinking and getting through the day. This is about creating powerful, empowered habits where you can step in to the best version of yourself. We teach specific skills. We provide you with support while you practice the skills. And in the end, as you learn what we are teaching and you start to practice it, you will notice that you have naturally moved away from alcohol. You just naturally, right? And it's not, I'm just going to get through this day. You're going to learn how to support yourself emotionally. You're going to learn how to support yourself physically, with your hormone regulation, with food, with emotions. We're going to teach you how to have relationships with other people as well as yourself. So in this program that we're offering, we want you to consider how much money have you spent trying to fix yourself using alcohol, food, buying things that you don't really need. I used to spend a lot of money on clothing, I just remember if I just had the right car and the right house and the right degree and the right clothing, that I would feel better. And none of that worked. None of that worked because I was trying to fix an internal problem with external things. And this program focuses on the internal life and shifting that. So here's what I know about you and me is that there's really nothing different between us. Like, you all heard me yesterday in shame and guilt, if you were a part of that. And probably some of you thought, wow, if Tamara can get sober, anybody can get sober. Because I just really hit those places in my life. And there's no difference, though. There's no difference between us. We can create. I've created the actual life that I want. I've made a commitment to invest in myself. Tiffany said, her priority is taking care of herself. I spend the first half of my day in like conscious taking care of myself. That's how I live today. And it has become my life. And where I used to ignore myself, I don't. I really pay attention and really take actions that are loving and supportive. And I did that through the tools that we're going to be teaching you here. So we've invested a lot of time, money, thought, energy into fixing our feelings. And so I want you to know about the Empowered Soberful Women program. This is Veronica's flagship program. I'm just going to tell you, and I know she talks about this over and over and over again. This isn't just about quitting drinking. This is about going in and doing the deeper work. And so we talk about boundaries and creating balance and meeting your needs and dealing with fear and resistance and building self-esteem and relationships with yourself. We help you learn how to shift resentments. We work with you on food and recovery and women's hormones and empowering habits that you are going to start implementing in your life. And our program is very skill based. It's designed so that you learn the skills you need to become emotionally sober and live an expansive life. The way our program works is that you will receive a training video and a handout for each module explaining what it is we are going to learn. You will then practice the new skill in weekly coaching calls that will help support and refine those skills. Like you'll come to the call and you might say, I'm practicing boundaries with my mother and I'm struggling with this issue. And then as coaches, we would help you with that and help you navigate that. We have a coaching call every single week, all the way through the end of November. In addition to this, you'll get 5 months of free membership to Soberful Life, which is the private online room for members with the program of Soberful Life. You can ask questions and get support all the way through the program. We have an early bird bonus too. So if you sign up before June 17th, you'll get to go to the bonus standalone session where you're going to work with Veronica on creating a vision for your future. Plus, if you pay in full, you get 2 bonus coaching sessions in December that help you get through the holidays. We all need a little help through the holidays, don't we? So that's almost like 6 months. So we made it really easy for you. The monthly payments are $899 for 6 months. And if you want to pay in full, you get the bonus coaching sessions and a little bit of the 2 extra bonus coaching sessions. So really, when you get down to it, this is the deeper work that we are going to teach you. And the price for the entire program is $4,997. And when you your first session, if you're not sure that this is the right thing for you, because we really, really want you to be the right fit for what we're offering. So you would actually sign up and do a session with Veronica and I, and we would talk about what has been going on with you in your life and help and consult with you about whether or not you're the right fit for this program. And that's a 90-minute session, and that's $97. And if you decide that you want to be a part of the program, then we'll take that $97 off the total price of the program. The reason why sobriety feels hard is because of your programming and your lack of emotional sobriety skills. If you show up for the program and you do and practice what we are teaching, it will change for you. Your experience will change. It changed for me. I have so much more bandwidth and can really intentionally create the life that I want because I did the work and I continue to use this in my life. It's really just my life now, right? I don't even have to really think about it. It's just who I am now. So, and if you don't do this work with us, which is fine, do the deeper work with someone. Do the deeper work with someone. You must do it in order to support yourself and live a more expansive life. So, okay, last thing, and thank you ladies so much. I mean, for all the participants that have been here today, for Mimi and Tiffany sharing your really deep information with the group. And I mean, I learned a lot just from being here with you. So I want to end with the homework question. So I asked you to wait till the very, very end, and I would give the homework question, and you can post your answer in Soberful Life Facebook page, and we'll announce the winner tomorrow. And the winner is for the swag, Soberful swag. So here is the question: how has food and hormones impacted your sobriety? How has food and hormones impacted your sobriety. So put it in the Facebook group, your answer, and we will draw a name, and it'll be announced tomorrow. And even if you can't come tomorrow, that's okay, because we'll reach out to you. When Louise or Leanie will reach out to you and let you know that you're the winner of the Soberful swag. So we really want to thank you for your time and attention with us today. It's been really an honor, I believe, for me and for the other women here, that we can share with you what we know, what we do, and how it has changed our lives. We welcome you to join us. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Mimi. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Tiffany. Yeah, bye-bye. Bye, everybody. Take care. Oh, there's the Facebook group. Thanks, Leanie. Thanks for putting it on there. Right. Thanks, everybody. Alice, thanks for coming. Bye, Lisa. Okay. Take care. Bye.